sorrow that heaven can't heal. So lay down your burdens, lay down your shame. Oh, I'm broken. Lift up your face. Oh, wanderer, come home. You're not too far. So lay down your hurt, lay down your heart. Come out.
welcome to DCC. Please stand up and join us in worship this morning.
Fire, blessing. Tune my heart to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing. Call for songs of loudest praise. Teach me some melodious sonnet, sung by flaming tongues above. Praise the mount I'm fixed upon it, Mount of thy unchanging love. Here I raise my Ebenezer, hither by thy help I come, and I hope by thy good pleasure safely to arrive at home. Jesus sought me when a stranger, wandering from the fold of God. He to rescue me from danger, interposed his precious blood. Hold to grace, our great debtor. Daily I'm constrained to be. Let thy grace now like a fetter bind my wandering heart to thee. Prone to wander, Lord, I feel it. Prone to leave the God I love. Here's my heart, Lord, take and seal it. Seal it for thy courts above. Prone to wander, Lord, I feel it. Prone to leave the God I love. Here's my heart, Lord, take and seal it. Seal it for thy courts above. Come thou fount of every blessing, tune my heart to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing. Call for songs of loudest praise. Here inside your presence, taken by the wonder of you. Here inside your glory, we give our lives wholly to you. Here inside your glory, taken by the wonder of you. Inside your glory, we give our lives fully. We cry, holy, holy are you. We cry, holy, holy are you. Your love, it burns inside. Our hearts are satisfied by you. Your love is our reward. It's why we ask for more of you. We cry, holy, holy are you. Our hearts are burning, burning for you. We cry, holy, holy are you. Our hearts are burning, burning for you. We are your burning one. We are consumed by it. We set our lives apart. We are consumed by it. We are your burning one. We are consumed by it. We set our lives apart. We are consumed by So let this love be like a fire. Let my life be like a flame. To the source of your desire. Let our passion bring you fame. So let this love be like a fire. Let my life be like a flame. To the source of your desire. Let our passions bring you fame. We are your burning one. We are consumed by it. We set our lives apart. We are consumed by it. You guys can have a seat. We're going to move into a time of communion here this morning. And this is how we choose to recognize the sacrifice that Jesus made, that all of us were lost in darkness and sin, that we were living in a system that was set up against us. We were living in a system that we could never win. We could never have a life worth living. And that our God paid the price to break that system. That our God sent his son to bleed and to die so that we no longer had to measure up. We no longer had to be perfect. And we were given this access to our God. We were given access to grace. And all we have to do is reach out and take it. So what's going to happen, the tray is going to go up and down the aisle, a little wafer and a little cup of juice. Take one of each of those and take them on your own time. Or I can take them all together. Let this be a moment for you to be silent and still before your Lord. If you haven't been here with us, you're going to hear people shattering those little cups all around the room. And it's this symbol that it is finished. That when the work of the cross shattered those systems and shattered those chains that held us in bondage, they were truly shattered. They can never be put back together. And that when we are told we are free, we are truly free. If all of this is weird and you want nothing to do with it, just pass it around to the next person. There's no shame in that. There's no condemnation in that. If you have questions, there'll be an opportunity later. But you are safe and welcome to be here, so just keep that tray moving. So let's pray, and we'll share that meal together. God, we thank you for this place where we can come and we can be reminded of what it is that you have done for us. Be reminded that you loved us enough to pay a price so that we could really live, to pay a price so that we could be with you. In your name we pray. Amen. God, we just thank you again for this place where we can come, we can remember who you are, we can sit in your presence and express our gratitude to you. In your name we pray. Amen. So we're going to play a song now. And we're actually going to play the song, and I'm going to sing the song, not a different song. So that's going to be cool. How many of you guys normally come to Saturday but didn't because it was snowing and that was kind of spooky? Well, good, because last night we messed this song up both times, and it was really cool. So hopefully this time we make it through the whole thing, but I'm making no promises. Money ends off of my stack. New car, caviar, 4-star daydream. Think I'll buy me a football team. Money, it's a gas. Grab that stack with both ends and make a stash. Money, it's a hit. Don't give me that too good
All right, all right. Give it up for them one more time. They worked really hard on this. That was great. That was great. Yeah, nothing like a little Pink Floyd to start your Sunday morning, right? Woo! Welcome to DCC. Hey, so my wife Stacy and I, we actually were really, really young when we got married. We got married, we were 20 years old. Let me show you what we look like. Here we are. So there's the happy couple. A whole lot of sexy going on right there. Check out that hair right there, right? Don't be jealous. Yeah, it's so good. We were actually two broke college students, didn't have much money at all. Luckily, Stace had been really, she was a hard worker in high school and had saved some money, and I had a little bit too, and we scraped together enough money for our down payment on a house and bought this tiny little house near campus, University of Louisville, where we both went to school. So go Cards. Let's start the morning that way too. Go Cards. So our first house payment was $231.48. And a lot of you are like, man, that's chump change. That's nothing in the world we live in today, and that's probably true. But, I mean, some of you spend that much at Starbucks every month. So, but for us, it was a whole lot of money, and things were really, really tight for us because we were dead broke. Let me give you an example of that. So we had this junky car. It was a 1978 red Honda Civic hatchback. Ours looked a lot worse than that one. That wasn't ours. So ours was a lot more dull, a lot more junky. We had this car, and not too long after we got married, the battery went out. We couldn't afford a new one. So every morning before school, I would go out and I would push the car. It was light enough, little car, I could push it. So I'd push it, get it rolling down the street a little bit, jump in, pop the clutch, start the car, turn around, come back, pick up Stacy, and we would go off to school. So we always tried to park on a little bit of an incline if we could, so it was easy to get the car started. And we did that for about a month because we just didn't have the money. So first Christmas comes as a married couple, 1984. I know it's a long time ago. It's our very first Christmas, and we were excited about that. And when we were dating, we would buy, we both worked and we had some money, so we'd spend money on each other and buy each other nice stuff. So we hit first Christmas as a married couple, and we're dead broke, but it really didn't matter. She bought me a VCR. If you don't know what that is, ask your mom. So she bought me a VCR, and I bought her a microwave. And back then, they were a lot heavier and a lot more expensive. So we bought that. Not a great start. I just want to say this. Not a great start for our financial future. And here's why I say that. We didn't have the money. We didn't have the money, but no problem. We didn't have the money. We just used plastic. We used credit cards to do that. And we put some things in motion that very first Christmas together as a married couple that would take us years to undo. We established some habits and problems that would lead to much greater problems for us for years to come. And see, my guess is we're not alone in that. Right? My guess is that all of us can relate to the words to the Pink Floyd song that Wade and the band just performed in one way or another. New car, caviar, 4-star daydream. I think I'll buy a football team. And then he says this, money, so they say, is the root of all evil today. Sounds like Pink Floyd's were Christians. I don't know. But if you ask me for a rise, it's no surprise. Check this out. They're giving none away. It's no surprise they're giving none away. Why? Because we can't. Why? Because we buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people that we don't even like. I mean, this is the world that we find ourselves living in today. I was reading this past week that our consumer debt, consumer credit card debt in this country rose 9% last year. So it's at $905 billion now, which means the average household in America carries between $16,000 and $20,000 of credit card debt alone. This is not counting student loan debt. It's not counting our car loans. It's not counting our mortgages. Boom. Our debt problem is not getting better. It's getting worse. It's true for us as a country, and it's also true for us, most of us individually too. And listen, I get it. We don't want to talk about this stuff, right? It makes us uncomfortable. We don't even want to look at the real reality of our financial situations. I know that. We're not comfortable talking about it, especially in this thing that we do called church. Me too. I've spent much longer sitting in the seats where you are than I have actually being a pastor. So I totally get that, but we really don't have a choice. We can't continue to ignore this stuff. God has so much to say that is so helpful for all of us. He has so much to say on this topic that is so helpful for all of us. Here's the best part. Even if we don't believe in God, even if we don't believe in the whole God thing, He has a lot to say that will be helpful for all of us. So last week we started the journey by saying this. We kind of landed the plane on a very simple statement that Jesus made. Hey, you can't serve God and money. You can't serve both. It just doesn't work. And so we said what we have to do is we have to take an honest look at our finances And we have to ask this question, not who do I want to serve, not who do I wish I was serving, but as I look at how I manage or handle my money, who am I really serving? Who am I really serving? See, because when we want to talk about getting into the black or staying in the black, or for some of us maybe getting back into the black, which means there's more money coming in than there is going out. If we really want to do that, when we really start to break that down and look at the hard reality of the numbers, when we really get to the heart of the matter, what we typically see is this. It isn't about want to. It's really not about want to. It is more about can't. It's not about want to, it's more about can't. Our hands, just to see, they seem to be so tied when it comes to this area of our lives. And so the question is there any hope for us in this? Is there any hope for us in this? Our hands are tied. Is there any hope? And the answer is yes. And that's what I want us to talk about in the rest of our time that we have left together today. All right? So let's jump in and let's do that. We're going to Luke chapter 12 today. Luke chapter 12 is where we're going to start. So if you brought a Bible and you want to open it, that's great. They're on the back tables there if you want a free one to grab now or grab it on your way home. Take it home with you. Love for you to have that. You can hit our app, you hit YouVersion. You can read with me on the screens if you want to do that. But before we jump into this, hey, I don't want to miss this. We want to say hello and good morning to all of our friends, old and new, online, and to anybody who's here for the first time today. If you're brand new, and we want you to know this, you're in a room full of people exactly like you. You and your story are safe here. And maybe the best part is this. There is a place reserved here every single week for you, even if you don't believe that this stuff that we're getting ready to read, even if you don't believe it's actually true. Okay? True for you every single week in this place. All right, let's do this. Verse 22, Luke chapter 12. Then Jesus said to his disciples, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you eat, or about your body, what you will wear. For your life is more than food, and the body more than clothes. Consider the ravens. They do not sow or reap. They have no storeroom or barn, yet God feeds them. And how much more valuable you are than birds. Who of you by worrying can add a single hour to your life? And since you cannot do this very little thing, why do you worry about the rest?" Okay, let's stop right there for just a second. So here's the deal. Don't worry about your life. Don't worry about what you'll eat. Don't worry about what you'll wear. God takes care of the birds, and you are more valuable than a bird. Aren't you glad you came today, right? You are more valuable than a bird. I'm so glad I drove through the snow just to hear that, right? It's like, no, that's not really all that helpful. Okay, hang with me just a second, right? So don't worry. Worry accomplishes nothing. Jesus kind of points to two extreme things here, what we eat and what we wear. And most of us sitting in the room right now, we're not really struggling with that. And if you are, here's what I want to say to you. Please tell us that. There's no shame in that because we got a lot of ways we can come alongside and help you with that. But here's the thing. The truth is that it doesn't have to be as extreme as what Jesus is pointing to here. That we don't have anything to eat or anything to wear. This really applies when it comes to anything that we really need in our lives, the very same principle applies. And so let's dial this in, what Jesus is saying to our lives and stories for just a few minutes this morning. Here's how I want to start this. I just want you to complete this simple statement, all right? When things get tight financially, I blank. And I feel like a game show host when I say that, but play along with me, okay? So when things get tight financially for me, I blank, or I tend to blank. And so lots of answers to that question, right? We cry, right? We add more hours. We take on more hours. We pick up a second job. We change jobs so we can make more money. We start driving Uber. We cut back on our spending. We give away less money. We call mom. We call dad. There's lots of answers. The ways that we could fill in that blank. We're in church, so some of us can feel compelled to give this answer. When things get tight financially, I pray. And I hope you do, and that's a great, great thing. And I've heard stories. I mean, that works. I mean, sometimes people have heard these stories, like I'm up against the wall, I pray, next day, boom, 5 crisp $100 bills on my porch, in my mailbox, something like that. This stuff actually happens. It really, really does. But here's my question. Have you ever been on the other side of that experience? Have you ever prayed, God, I'm in a tight spot here financially, and I really need your help, only to have nothing happen or nothing really change at all? Because if that's you, me too. I've been there. And so the question is, what do we do with that? I just want to be honest with you. Before I do any of this stuff, before I phone a friend, before I confide in someone I know I can trust, before I look at my spending and say, hey, where can I cut back? Before I even pray, do you know what I do? What I typically do first? I do the exact thing that Jesus is telling me I shouldn't do here. I worry. More often than not, it's exactly what I do. I worry. Stacy and I moved here August of 2008 to become a part of this story, the DCC story. And I'll be honest, I was really concerned when we moved here about where our family was going to be. We have a family of 6, 4 kids, 4 girls. I had 2 in high school, a junior and a sophomore when we moved here. They were getting ready to start their junior and sophomore year. I was really worried about where we were going to land financially in all of this because the church was really small. It was less than 100 people. I was really, really struggling, and it couldn't really pay us a lot. And we knew that. We understood that. What we didn't know was that our house back in North Carolina that we put on the market was for sale. We didn't know it wasn't going to sell. Beautiful house, beautiful neighborhood, great price. Boom. So we came here, we moved, and we started making double payments. And some of you have been there, and this is never fun, right? You're paying rent on the house you're living in where you live, and then you're paying payments on the one you're trying to sell. So that became our life. So first month, it doesn't sell. I'm like, okay. Second month, I'm like, uh-oh. Third month, it's like, whoa. And so here's what happens. I'm watching as our savings is going down, and as our savings was going down, my worries started going up. Does this ever happen to you? It's kind of an inverse relationship, right? Savings goes down, worry goes up. And so after 18 months of doing that, the money was all gone. It was gone. And we entered this thing that we were trying so hard to avoid, this thing called foreclosure, that would hit us really hard and would carry on for several years in our life. Now, here's what I want you to know about that 18-month period in my life. I was praying really hard. I was praying really, really hard. God, please sell this house. Please. In fact, people in our church wasn't very big. We'd met over at the old building. I'll never forget this. We sat in a circle in the kids' area one night in chairs and went around the room, and everybody prayed that God would sell this house. And so I'm praying and I'm praying and praying, but the house is not selling. And so the savings is going down. The worry is going up. And so it worked for a while. The way I could control my worry was I made a payment, because there was money, right? And so I made a payment, worry would come back down. But then the house doesn't sell next month, got to make another payment. Worry's up, make a payment. That was great until the money ran out. And so now the question is, now what? Now let me give you a little bit of the backstory here. So Stace and I, we did this Dave Ramsey thing called Financial Peace way back. And it really got us out of debt. We got rid of all of our debt except for our house payment, which really helped us when we transitioned from the practice of law. I was an attorney for 10 years into ministry. So here's the thing. Dave Ramsey principles, his principles, they work. They change your life, and I knew that, and so I applied them, and it was great. But here's what I'm trying to get to. When the money ran out for us in Colorado, I knew better. I knew better than to do what I was getting ready to do, but it didn't matter. See, because when the worry gets to a certain point, it doesn't really matter what we know. And so you know what I did? I did the only thing that I knew that I could do. I didn't have any money left, so I turned to plastic. I turned to credit cards. I started charging everything that I could. Can I charge my car insurance? Yes. Can I charge this? Can I charge that? Can I charge this? Everything that we did that I could put on credit, I did it. Why was I doing that? Because I was trying to slow down the bleeding. I was trying to turn down the volume on the worry, all this worry that existed in my financial life. And all of a sudden, did that for a while, I look up, and we are in the worst financial mess that we've ever been in our entire lives. It would take us over 7 years to recover from that mess. Now, what's the point? The point is this thing that seemed to temporarily medicate my worry ultimately led me to a much larger long-term problem. And see, here's the thing. God knows this stuff. God knows this stuff. He knows this is how this stuff works, and he has so much to say to us to try to help us with this stuff. And the beauty is, a lot of it, you don't even have to believe that God is real in order for this stuff to really help your life. Like this. Check this out. Proverbs 22, verse 7. He says this, "The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is a slave to the lender." Now, none of us want to be slaves. We talked about this a few weeks ago. The Apostle Paul said, "I'm just going to be a slave to everyone." And we all said, nope, don't want to do that. Right? We don't want to be slaves. But here's the trap. Here is the trick and the trap, okay? Things get tight financially, we worry. Debt medicates worry, and we become slaves. Boom. This is so many of our stories. And so we have to pause and ask this question. Who, what, or where am I turning? Who, what, or where do I tend to turn when things get tight financially in my life, with financial worry in my life? Where's God on that list? Is God even on that list? It's a great place for us to start as we walk down this path that Jesus is walking us down today. Okay, let's keep going. Verse 27, he says, "Consider how the wild flowers grow." So now we're going from birds to flowers. "They do not labor or spin, yet I tell you, not even Solomon in all of his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that's how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, how much more will he clothe you, you of little faith? And do not set your heart on what you will eat or drink. Do not worry about it, for the pagan world runs after such things, and your Father knows that you need them. But seek his kingdom. Seek his kingdom, and these things will be given to you as well. Okay, let's step into this a little bit further. Let's zoom in. Here's where we need to zoom in that paragraph. Jesus basically says this. Hey, I want you to live your life differently than the pagans do. I want you to live your life differently than the pagans do. Now, let me just pause here and say this. I don't like the word pagan. Do not call your unchurched friends pagans, all right? I'm just trying to help you out a little bit here. It's just not cool. It's not. Back in this day, so the Greek word is ethnos. It means people who are different, obviously. And so pagans then were people who served a different God other than the God that the people of Israel served here. So do that. But Jesus is saying here, there should be a distinction, if you follow me, between you and people who don't. And so this is not just about learning to trust God with the basic necessities that we need in our life. Jesus lays it out. He says, trust God with everything. I want you to trust God with everything. So let's think about this in the context of what we're talking about. Okay? Here's the question. Do we really trust God enough to put him first financially in our lives? Because last time I checked, pagan people don't do that. Do we really trust God enough to put him first in our financial life? Do we do that? Now, here's the thing. It's tough. I get it. It's a hard question. And here's the thing I know. I know your heart. You want to. We want to do this. But the reality of our lives and stories usually boils down to this. It's not about want to. It's more about can't. It is not about want to. It is more about can't. We want to put God, if we follow Jesus, we believe in Jesus, we want to put God first in everything in our lives. That's not a question. We want to put God first. We want to put him first in our financial lives too. But what happens? We look at the reality, the black numbers, the red numbers, whatever they are. We look at the lives of our financial life. We're looking at it like, where's there room? How can I do this? How can I? And it's not about want to. It's just like, I just can't. Why? Because so often the truth is we have become slaves to this thing called debt. Check this out. Watch what's happened to us. This thing that we used to medicate our worry has now become even a bigger source of worry for us. That's the trap. You know, Dave Ramsey, he's a really smart guy. He's a genius when it comes to this stuff. He describes most of our financial lives this way. He says, here's the life you're living. You're living a lay-awake life. You lay awake at night and you worry and you're all stressed out because of the reality of what your financial life looks like. I want to go back in time a year before Stacy and my first Christmas together. So that was 1984. Let's go back to 1983. So this was the Christmas that we got engaged, and so that cost me money. But I wanted to buy my dad a .22 rifle that Christmas. My dad grew up, I've talked about it, in the country in Kentucky. So he used to tell me stories about when he was a young man. He had this car because he worked at a grocery store, and he carried a .22 rifle behind the seat in his car, and he would just stop and shoot things. I mean, you get arrested for this stuff today, right? But this is the sticks of Kentucky. You probably still don't get arrested in the sticks of Kentucky. But anyway, so he's in the sticks. So I was like, as a kid growing up, I was like, I want to get my dad a rifle. So, you know, we're young married. I said, we're getting ready to get married, but I'm like, I want to get dad a rifle. So I went to the store. I picked out this .22 rifle, and I put it on layaway. Anybody remember that? Layaway, right? And so I started to make payments on this because I couldn't afford to pay for it. So I was working. I just started making payments on it. Finally, I paid it off right before Christmas. I went. They gave it to me. I gave it to my dad. It was a great day. See, here's this thing. Here's the thing. This layaway thing, this used to be how we rolled. It was. And some of us think, well, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. Why would you wait when you could buy it now? Just whip out a card. Boom, boom. It's there. It's yours, right? Hey, I think there's something about this layaway thing that we've kind of lost in the world that we live in. See, when you lay it away, when they give it to you, it's yours free and clear. You haven't paid any interest. You've just paid what it cost. And guess what? When they hand it to you, it's still brand new. It's an interesting concept, isn't it? I went to Uganda 3-4 years ago to visit our partner, Musana. And they're doing great work in Uganda. I mean, just amazing work. And so we're there. And so as we're driving around these different villages and visiting these people, I noticed all these houses that looked like they were falling down and abandoned and all this. I was like, man, this looks like a war zone. What happened, you know? And so I didn't really say anything about it. I just kept seeing it. But everywhere I went, I saw these houses that were 20%, left. Or, there's 30% of it left. The bricks are falling and all this stuff. I'm like, what's going on? So finally I asked Andrea and Hareel, who are partners over there, I said, hey, what's going on with these houses? Why have everybody abandoned these houses? They go, oh, no. Those are new houses. I was like, what? They're like, yeah, those are new houses. I'm like, No, they're not. You know, I was just like, look at that, right? There's nobody there. There's nobody working on it. It just looks like it's just falling apart. And they're like, no. So mortgages in Uganda run 20+% if you can get one. Really hard to get. It's 20+%, so nobody does it. So what do? They build their homes as they have the cash to do it. And so I've got some money. I spend it on bricks, and boom, I start to put some bricks up. And then I wait. I get more money. I brick it up. And so finally, guess what? I finish my home, and guess what? I'm not a slave to anyone. There's something to this thing. Just think about it. Under our better system, our better way of doing things, by the time we have something paid off, it's rusty, it's broken, it looks like crap. We don't even know where it is. It's like, where is it? I think we sold that in the yard sale. Or maybe it's in storage in the basement, right? I mean, we don't even know where it is. Come on, let's be honest. We have traded in a layaway life for a layawake life. We live in a layawake world. Andrew and Charity Fisk, young couple, great friends of ours. They're mission partners of ours too. They work with YWAM. And so in the past year, recently, they moved to Kazakhstan and with their little daughter, beautiful daughter, Avanel, and they're over there, and they're building this giant aquaponics facility. They have one here in the Springs too, but they're building another one over in Kazakhstan so that the people of this country can sustain themselves. So they're teaching sustainability through aquaponics, and it's going to be a training center where people all over the world come in and learn how to do this stuff. I got to tell you, there aren't many people in this world that I admire and respect more than Andrew and Charity. Andrew and Charity Fisk. They're such a young couple, but they're amazing. You know, I remember when they got married. It was like 6-7 years ago. I remember talking to them that day and just telling them, I am so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. Because here's the deal. They get married. They lived on the YWAM campus over at Garden of the Gods in this converted hotel room. And it was so small that Andrew had to build a loft. So they built a loft, put their bed on top of this platform so they could put a little bit of furniture underneath it. I mean, it's this tiny little place, but it didn't seem to matter to them. You know, from the very first time they started dating, here's what you knew to be true of them. God was always first. Everything else was second. And if they didn't have the cash, they didn't buy it. And when I watch how they sacrifice and how they do without, and how they say no for the sake of this larger story, God's kingdom, I am so, so proud of this young couple. And here's the deal. I can't help but contrast their start with how Stacy and I started in 1984. The things that we bought for each other were not bad things. But they started us down a very bad road, this road towards debt, a road that would often lead us at this point where we would look at our financial situation, and even if we wanted to put God first, we just couldn't do it. You see, it wasn't about want to. So we got down that road. It wasn't about want to. It's just look at where we are. We're strapped, right? We just can't. We just can't. You know, so when Stacy and I hit rock bottom with foreclosure about 8 years ago, as you can imagine, things were an absolute mess. So I called each one of our credit card companies, and I asked them, can we cut a deal? Can we negotiate? I'm not asking to pay you less. I just need time to pay it. Would you consider lowering the interest rate and setting this like a term loan? And so we did that with every credit card that we had. And it took us several years to kind of unwind this mess. And so as we would pay off one thing, the smallest one, we'd take the money we were paying on that. We'd put it towards the next one. This is a Dave Ramsey thing. It really works well. And then we start attacking that one, and then we'd attack the next. So for the first time really in our financial lives for a long time, if ever, this was the financial reality of our lives. We either had to pay cash, we had to use a debit card, which meant you had to have the cash, or we didn't buy it. And that was really, really tough for us. I mean, we're 25 years into marriage, and now here's where we find ourselves. But see, here's the thing. There was this little stash of money sitting over here that every single month was just right there, and you just kind of look at it. It was the 10% that we had committed to monthly give to the church. And it was our second biggest nut, right? It was behind our rent. It was the second biggest amount of money right there. The amount that's behind rent, this is the amount that's going to the church. And it was so tempting for us as we're suddenly in this world where everything is so tight and so rigid. It was so tempting not to just say, you know what? Yeah, and I got to be honest with you. I'm not proud of this, but one time I did exactly that. It was December of 2009. It was our second Christmas here. So here's the deal. Christmas is coming. Credit cards are maxed out. I've set these terms. We've been foreclosed on. Our credit is destroyed. The savings is gone. There is no money. We're living paycheck to paycheck, and there's this money here. And now I'm looking at this, and I'm going, you know what? My girls are not going to do without Christmas. They've never gone without Christmas. And so I took the money that we were going to give to the church first, and I pulled it all over here, and I spent all of it on Christmas for my girls. I wanted to give the church the money. That's my heart. I know how God blesses this stuff. It blows you away. And I've been so good at doing that. But this one month, I looked into the eyes of my girls and I said, no, 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 no. My girls are not going to go without Christmas. See, it wasn't about want to. It was about I just can't. I just can't. And see, that's where we are, right? It's not about want to. Our heart is we want to. It's just we look at the reality of our financial lives and we go, you know what? I just can't. I just can't. And so my question is, what do we need to change so that we can? What do we need to begin to change or shift around in our financial life and our financial strategy so that we can? Are we supposed to wait until it's all taken care of and all the debt is gone and it's all clean and there's a nice budget to start giving to God first? Is that what this is about? Answer is no. I mean, what does giving to God look like in this financial recovery plan as I'm getting out of debt, right? That's a great question. But see, here's what I want you to understand. The question is not, would you answer yes to this question? Is God first and is God's kingdom first in your life? That's not the question. The question is not, would you answer yes to that question? The question really is this. What do our bank accounts really say? I know it's a hard question, but it's a necessary one. What do our bank accounts really say? This past Tuesday, I woke up 5 a.m. I look over at my phone, and there's a message on it from my buddy Morgan over at Ransom Tart. I'm like, dude, it's 5 in the morning. What are you doing texting me? And so I grab my phone, and I read this message. I just want to read it to you. He says, buddy, experiencing the Father's heart for you this morning. So Morgan, my buddy, is experiencing God's heart for me. And when he does, he usually sends me a message. It's awesome. So he says, his pleasure of you. And I'm like, yes, this is so good, right? I want to wake up to this in the morning. God takes pleasure in me. So I'm doing a pretty good job of trying to lead this place and be a dad and a husband and all that. Okay, so God's taking pleasure in me. That's good. His portion being promised to you. Yes, I want more of God's blessing in my life. Bring it, brother. And then he says, and his deepening infuriation for him to be your prize. And he says, I stand with you agreeing with what God can do through your strong, loving, and consented leadership. And I was like, yes. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. What? His deepening infuriation for him to be my prize? I don't need to be woken up at 5 a.m. for you to tell me that. I mean, God is deeply infuriated with me because he's not my go-to. He's not always first. He's not my prize. I mean, I'm just kind of stewing in that. You know what I did? I sent him back this cute little emoji. It's of a hand. You know, sign language, one finger salute, whatever you want to call it, right? I just sent it. I sent it to him, and then I just turned over and I went back to sleep. I didn't do that. I thought about it and I wanted to, but I didn't, all right? That's not true. You want to know what is true? When I worry, I turn to a lot of things and a lot of people. And I wish I could stand up here this morning and tell you that God's always my first choice. But it's not true. And he wants to be. God wants to be my first choice in everything in my life. With everything I have, my talent, my time, my treasure, all of it. He just, I want to be first. Greg, I just want to be first. And I want to be first with your money. And I want to be first with your debt, as ugly as it is. I want to be first with the financial mess that you're in. The financial, oh, it's so terrible. Yeah, invite me into that. Put me first and watch what happens in your life. See, in the end, Stacy and I were able to recover from our financial mess quicker than we ever thought would have been possible. Now, it still took us years. Don't hear me wrong on this. But you know why I think that happened? Because with the exception of the 1 month that I told you about in December of 2009, every single month, we didn't always get it right, but God came first. And that money could have been used to get us out of debt quicker. There's no doubt about that. That money could have been used to buy clothes for our girls or groceries or whatever it might be. There's all kinds of things we could have used that money for, but we didn't. God came first. See, that's what Jesus is trying to point us to here. He says, listen, with everything, seek God first. Seek his kingdom first. And guess what? All this other stuff, it will take care of itself. And so the question is, are we doing this? Are we doing this? Jesus got a couple more things to say, and then we'll get out of here. Verse 32, he says, do not be afraid, little flock, for your Father is pleased to give you the kingdom. Sell your possessions and give to the poor. Provide purses for yourselves that will not wear out, a treasure in heaven that will never fail, where no thief comes near and no moth destroys. And here's the statement. Last week he says you can't serve God and money. It's impossible. This week he says this, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Jesus says, give. Be generous. Be generous. Give, 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 give. Why does he say that? Because there's no way around this. Our hearts will always follow our money. And Jesus says the real indicator of where your heart is, it's not what we say. It's not what we believe. It's not what we say we believe. It's not what we memorize and what we read. It's not what we sing. It's not what we pray, and it's not what we preach. Jesus says the real indicator for you and me where our hearts really is will always be found in one place, in the red or black reality of our bank accounts. See, I said this to you last week. I got to say it again. Jesus is not trying to get our money. Jesus is trying to make sure that our money doesn't get us. He's trying to make sure that our money doesn't get the one and only thing that he cares about in the entire world, our hearts. So one last hard question, one last very hard question before we sneak out of here today. You ready? So what does my use of treasure say about my heart? What does my use of money say about my heart? Do you know why it concerns me so much that over half of the people that call Discovery Church their place don't give anything at all? Now, I don't know what anybody gives other than my family, so relax. I don't know what you give or don't give. But I do know that. I've been told that by people that know. There's just a few. That over half the people, and it's a bigger number than that, don't give anything at all. You know why that concerns me so much? And you're like, well, yeah, because we can't pay our bills. And I'll be honest with you, I worry about that. I'm learning to trust God and to lean into God more than I ever have, but I worry too much about that stuff. In fact, that's caused me more sleepless moments this year. Our lack of giving has caused me more sleepless moments this year than it ever has before. So I worry about that stuff. But do you want to know what I worry more about? I worry more about this statement that Jesus makes right here. Our hearts are following our money. Because see, we say God's first. And we say God's kingdom is first. And we say that what he wants in our lives and in our stories matters most. And that's what comes first. But our bank accounts tend to suggest otherwise. And Jesus says, he says, listen, here's what you need to know. I'm going to build my church. And hell's not going to stop it. Nothing is going to stop me building my church. So if I don't give or you don't give, guess what? The church moves forward. Jesus says, I'm building my church. With or without you, I'm building my church. And so the thing is, God's kingdom does not miss out. We miss out. And Jesus says, you keep looking at it and you go, you know what? I just can't afford to give. And Jesus says, what I'm trying to help you understand is you can't afford not to give. See, I can stand up here week after week after week until I'm blue in the face and talk about this stuff. We can do a sermon series on this stuff every single year, and we do. But the best and most persuasive arguments in the entire world are never going to convince you. I know that. I've been doing this for a long time. The best argument that could ever be raised will never, ever convince you. It doesn't matter that there are more verses in the Bible on this subject than any other subject. It doesn't matter that Jesus talks about this more than anything else. It doesn't matter how much we're reading those verses and quoting those verses and memorizing those verses. None of that matters. The only way that you and I will ever break out of the stronghold that the enemy has established in this area in each of our lives is for us to begin to make some changes and actually try it. That's the only way things are going to change. There's no way around it. The best of sermons ain't going to change a thing. And so here's what I'm challenging you to do. I need you to try it. I need you to try it. Financial Peace University starts this afternoon at 2 o'clock. It's not too late to sign up. Go out the door, info booth garage. Boom, you need to do that. That's one way to try it. You don't have to do that. Here's what you need to do. Pick a number. Pick a number. I don't care what the number is. $10, $20, $30 a week. 1%, 3%, 5%, 7%. I don't really care. And yes, Starbucks and Dutch Brothers are going to be a little sad because they're going to lose out for a while. Okay, so that's okay because God's going to come first. Why am I saying it's not a budget issue? This is a heart issue. So I want you to pick that number and stay at it for 3 to 6 months. Not 3 to 6 days, 3 to 6 months. You're like, well, listen, just think about it, okay? You don't say, hey, I'm going to start working out. Go to the gym for a week, go home, take your shirt off, look in the mirror and go, yeah, nothing's really changed. I'm out. We don't do that. You'll say, I'm going to start saving money. So you save for 6, 7 days, and you look, and it's like, wow, I was hoping there'd be more than that. No, I'm not. I'm out. Why don't you do that? Because you know real change takes time. And that is so true when it comes to this heart stuff that we talk about in this place. It is especially true when it comes to this stronghold that money has on our hearts. It's going to take us a while to break this. And so here's the deal. I don't have permission to do this. I didn't ask for permission to do this. I probably should have. I didn't. So I'm going to have to ask for forgiveness. I want to dare you to do this. I want to dare you to trust God with your money off the top for 3 to 6 months. Pick a number. Bam, there it is. Set it as a recurring gift so you don't even have to touch it. It just goes, it goes, it goes. And after 3 to 6 months, if you look at your life and you look at your financial life and God hadn't changed a thing and nothing's really happened, send us a message. I promise you, we will refund every dollar that we have a record that you've given to us in that time period, every penny of it. Now, why would I risk my job and put it on the line to say that? Because this is not a budget issue, it is a heart issue. I don't understand why God drew this thing up the way that he did. But here's the deal. When you give to his kingdom and his church, it is always directly connected to you experiencing every bit of the life that God has for you. You can't disconnect the two. Why do we talk about this stuff? Because, after all, what we're most after in this week, for every single person that walks into this place every single week, is you experiencing all of the life that God has for you. You owe it to yourself. Be fair to yourself and try it before you conclude that this stuff is not true. Let me pray us out. Jesus, Jesus, woo! Yeah. Thanks for loving us enough to tell us that there's this trap and there's this thing that more than anything else is going to stand between us and the life that you have for us. And we're afraid, Jesus. We want to put you first in every aspect of our lives, but we look at the financial realities. Many of us look at the financial reality of our lives, and it just feels like we can't. Because if we were to put you first with even just this little piece of money, something else is going to get tighter. Something's going to get harder. Someone's going to start to call us. And it's just like, oh my goodness, there's so much fear. Jesus, give us the courage to trust you with this. Would you come? Would you show us? Help us to just take an honest assessment, as hard as it is for us to look at our reality. Would you bring courage into the midst of our fear? Would you walk with us into this and through it so that you can lead us to every bit of the life that you came to bring us? Jesus, every single one of us in here today came looking for more hope. We came looking for everything that you came to offer us. Chasing after this better way to live. Help us to see the things that are getting in the way. And to have the courage to step with you into that and through that. Lead us to the life you came to bring us. I pray more hope over every heart in this place. More hope than we came in here with when we walked in here today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Hey, real quick before you leave. So next weekend, big weekend here at DCC. I'm hoping you'll be back. You'll bring a lot of friends. John Eldridge, who's a good friend of mine, great friend of Discovery's, New York Times best-selling author. He's just so responsible for who this place is and what we've become and the way that we walk people through life in this place. He's going to be here next weekend. All 4 services speaking with us. We are so honored to have him here. Most churches don't get this opportunity. So listen, bring your friends. Come in here. Let's pack this place out. All 4 services next weekend. Hey, if you want to know more about getting connected here, next steps at DCC, go out the doors, turn left, room called the Garage there. Hey, if you want to sign up for FPU, it's not too late. Info booth or garage, bam. They can help you do that. If you want prayer, there'll be people under the screens to my right and my left right after this service is over, and I say see you next week. Last but not least, you want to be on mission with us. You want to be an owner in this place with us. Hey, we don't pressure. We don't pass anything. We do hang boxes on the wall by the doors, or you can hit our app and our website if you choose to do it electronically. Thanks for being here today with us. I'll be out by the fireplace if you want to talk to me. Don't know how the roads are. Be careful going home. Hope to see you back next week.
living it? Do I live in it? So astounding. Love is an ocean, you can drown me. The sweet embrace, the lovely taste, I taste and see. I'm under grace, the place to be. It means I'll never need an umbrella. I'm cool in the cold, in the hot weather. Whether or never I ever understand, I'm a man in the hands of great plans. I stand with faith there in a life I never known to touch. And still outside my clutch, but I'm like, what's the dream of? What's the hope in? What's to die for? Live to no end. This is living. The life I've been given is a gift. If I'ma live it, I'ma live it to death. So what's the dream of? What's the hope in?